Let's get started. This is going to be a new chapter for us, friends. You can hear me, right? This good? Okay. We'll go to the next one. So this is where we're going to kind of move today. Now that I've had more time to digest the survey, we're going to also show you some of the overview, like things picked up, talk about some of the things that we didn't get to last time. But I'm going to move fast through the things that we talked more in length about last time. Let's go back to that screen. So why we're moving, then we're going to do a lease overview, worship schedule, spaces, so you have an idea. Again, we talked about that a lot last time. The highlights of what you said mattered to you in the building. And then some the concerns you had, and there were some good quotes that I added in here. Actually, AI did, but whatever. We get to say that we did it, right? I don't know. Our new home, address, financial commitment. So Tanya will talk more about that, but y'all already know it. We're gonna also tell you that we have a covenant. We're gonna have a covenant between the three churches, and we asked for that. So to see pieces of that. And then we vote at the end. And this is a vote of membership. So if you would like to vote today and you are not a member, I am happy to welcome you into membership before we do it. But you can vote anyways. We just have to, Brett, tally who was here and know who voted and who didn't and who seconded the motion and all of that kind of stuff, because this is a church conference. So let's move on to the next one. So 82% of you said that you were excited or hopeful. This went down, remember, from the last time we took a survey about this in 2024, but I know it. You know way more now. Of course it would go down a little bit. 58% are very excited. 24% of us are cautiously hopeful. We had 33 survey participants altogether in the end. And the key drivers for you being this hopeful were stability after all the mobility and the fatigue. Y'all talked about the fatigue of setup and breakdown. Children's and youth ministry, the growth of that, you believed that could happen better in a building. Growth opportunities, using that space to provide more opportunities that we don't have access to space the rest of the week, all of that, and focus on ministry. This is, somebody said, redirect the massive amount of effort expended on weekly logistics and turn it towards literally anything else. That's what the person said. I forgot that I added some quotes here. Yeah, growth opportunity, using our new, more secure and consistent base to develop more community partnerships and service. Our greatest opportunity is using the new building as a base to continue our mobility, and I like that, continue our mobility, mobile mindset, and community presence, and having a steady place which inspires visual beauty of worship and restfulness. Oh, you don't like elementary schools for visual beauty? I didn't know. So what matters most to you all that we keep? Our theology, our values, that we build more relationships, real, true human community and belonging. And a lot of you shared, I loved the answers to who you thought were missing at the table. I think I reached out to some of you personally related to that. And I can't wait to talk about that more. And then mission and service. Those are our core values. Okay, moving forward, this is our new address. Memorize it, know it. It's actually a 22310 address. So that's effectively moving out of Kingstowne, technically, because Kingstowne's 22315, but it's squarely Franconia, which Franconia this was just Franconia until Kingstowne existed, right? Shared services include, I'll let Tanya, that's fine, I can talk about it. There's some shared services of the building, but those are the main spaces that we will use and get use of. Classrooms, there are 4 classrooms on one side and 2 classrooms on another side. The 2 classrooms on the other side are going to be flex classrooms so that adults things can happen in them, the ones that are farthest from the entry to the sanctuary. Basically, they're on the back side. The 4 classrooms down that hall, we use 2 currently. We can use up to 3. We can use 4 if we need to. If children's ministry is growing, great. And then outdoor space, there's going to be a toddler playground, a full, large, I think 5 to 12-year-old playground. That's what they said. That's pretty impressive because it's got to be pretty big if it's for 12-year-olds. But then a conference area. There's going to be a big conference table that we can get the room if we need it. And then, so I say ample parking. There is ample parking on every other day except for what big high holy days. Those are the things I don't know about. So that's why we are going to have to work through figuring that out. I don't know how Christmas and Easter will work with parking, especially with Brightview. But we are going to, the good news is we just finished Easter and we have until Christmas, we have a good amount of time to figure out the logistics of that. I imagine we will have multiple services in the building, probably quite a few, and we'll navigate who gets what times. Apparently the Hispanic church, Christmas Eve is not really a thing. It's New Year's Eve. So they kind of take over the building on New Year's Eve. They don't really have much at stake in the Christmas Eve conversation. And then we might do some level of parking with shuttles. We have talked about that for those kind of events. I don't know. We'll work through it. And then I think this is fine. We can move on from this. Tanya, you want to come up and talk? There we go. In your app, under worship, under Sunday worship is a tab that says move, and the big move, and you can pull up the lease there if you want to see all the words. It's a lot of words. You can also trust Tanya that she'll give you the highlights.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Is this working? Okay. So we'll go over the key lease terms. We've got a 5-year term starting May 1st of this year going through 2031. That was important to us to give us stability, to give them stability as well. We each have a 90-day termination option. So if either party finds out that's not working for them, we've got 90 days termination. We get early access in April, so we've been able to move some things in. We have a security deposit of $1,000. We've got a right of first refusal. So at the end of the term, if Virginia Hills decides they want to do another lease or sell the building, we get the right to have the first option to either take the lease or to buy the building. And that would be something that we would do in conjunction with the larger Methodist church. But we wanted to have the right to do that if we like it, to have the option to stay. There's no automatic renewal. That gives us some time or a chance to kind of figure out if that works for us. And we have equipment protection for the AV equipment that we have contributed to. We contributed $40,000 toward that equipment. If for any reason, well, not for any reason, if we terminate because the landlord has had a breach of contract, or if the landlord terminates us when we have not had a breach of contract, we have an amortization clause in the lease that allows us to recapture the remaining portion of that $40,000 that wouldn't be used. And we felt that was really important to make sure that was protected. Any questions on any of those terms? Excellent. Next slide. So our financial commitment, we start this year with $2,500 a month in May, which is what we had budgeted. Next year in May, we go up to $3,000 a month. That was important for Virginia Hills. They've got a lot of expenses in the building as well. And then every year on our lease anniversary, we increase by 3%, which is pretty standard for a lease. There's our rent schedule. Over the 5 years, our total investment is $180,610. That includes all of the expenses for the building. So that's cleaning services, internet services, printer, copier, coffee service, storage, access to the exterior shed. All of that stuff is included, so we don't have to pay extra for that.
Actually, there is one thing that's wrong, and I wanted to mention that we are in conversation about coffee. So AI did this. They added it to it, but it shouldn't be under what's included. The coffee service piece, how we do it is still being debated, but there will be there's a coffee bar that's been purchased. It was going to be permanent, but then they realized they didn't want anything to be messed up when they used that space for like soft play for the preschool. So they wanted it to be able to be rolled into the kitchen, anything on that coffee table. So now we'll be able to roll into the kitchen, but it will roll out of the kitchen and be in the main lobby area. And on that will, the goal that I heard last, but they're still figuring out everything related to it, is to get a one of those coffee makers that you rent, like Wegmans has, that makes all the lattes. Push a button, and it's with a connection to the water line. You can rent it. They've already bought a fridge that will go right next to the rolling coffee bar, that will be filled all the time with water bottles and sparkling waters, and they'll be available some little snacks and stuff. They're going to have a full budget for what that will cost to keep that just up and running all the time throughout a month. And the last budget I heard for the full budget was $600, and then that would be divided equally, which is actually better for our benefit that it's equal, equally between La Hermosa, Virginia Hills Preschool, and us. And so it being a quarter of that is $150, and that would be the most we would pay monthly for coffee service, but that just means it's stocked all the time. We don't have to clean anything, all of that. If we don't go for that, if churches like La Hermosa or if somebody else says, I veto, do not want to pay that much, we might go for a few Keurigs with the compostable, not the plastic ones, but the ones that are good for the environment. I have to say that every time I talk about Keurigs. But we might do some Keurigs up there. That just takes longer for people to make their coffee, but it's fine. It would just cut the cost down. Either way, there will be coffee available all the time for you. Also waters and sparkling waters and maybe tea, and for anybody who's in the building ever. But we do have to pay extra for it.
All right, now rent is payable monthly in arrears, and there's a late fee of $250, but we will never be late. Worship schedule, do you want to talk about this, Michelle?
Sure, yeah. Well, we talked about this a lot last week, but I know a lot of you are here that were not here last week. So Sunday mornings, here's what a Sunday morning will look like. And this was really important for you to visualize this with sharing with other churches. Our service will be at 9:30. Virginia Hills will be at 11:15, and La Hermosa will be at 1:30. La Hermosa, we will likely never see, except for maybe youth group. Youth group we might see because their services are a little longer. They might have a meal afterwards, and there might be some rollover there. But we won't see them very often on a Sunday morning. Our transition between us and Virginia Hills, we will get in, our band can get in. We put 8:30, but we get first use of the space, which means if we just what's reasonable, right? We get in, if we wanted to come in at 7 because we were setting up a bunch of stuff, we could come in at 7 if we wanted to. But we get in 8:30, maybe the band gathers and rehearses, and don't have to set anything up, right? And then we have our service at 9:30. Our service time is from 9:30 till 10:45. At 10:45, the doors will open, and the Virginia Hills people can start coming in to get their stuff. As we're exiting, there will be kind of a passing that's happening at that 10:45 moment. And then we need to be fully out of the sanctuary by 11 a.m. so that they have 15 minutes on their own in that space, do any last things that they need. But that just means into the lobby. What is between the lobby, the fellowship hall, the gathering area that's right outside, it's like a multi-purpose space that has a fireplace and couches and the coffee bar out there. We can be there. We can be picking up our kids from children's church. We can do whatever we need. Or we have a class afterwards in one of the classrooms. We can go there. Or we can go sit on the patio, go play in the playground. All those things are all up for grabs. We just need to be out of the sanctuary by 11 a.m. And there is a full wall with full closing doors. It's not like a partition. I think I confused some of you before. So with the doors closed, sound bleed unless we are just being really rowdy. Should be okay. Just so long as we always keep in mind while we're out there, there's a service going on right inside, right? And so that's our time frame. The rest of this is all flexible. The band currently has practiced on Thursdays for 10 years. I imagine we're not making them move, but they might choose to. Our leadership team's on Tuesday nights, but we might take a different night if scouting is going to be in the building on Tuesday nights. We can be flexible. And then we have, but yes, Youth Co. will get to be in there, and Kids Table can use the space. All of that. We can have small groups in that when we want. We just have to say what we want to do, and we can use it, okay? So long as we're not competing with others. Any questions about that? Okay. Yeah, and I think we can move on from that. Where did I put my slides? They're there. So this is, anything else you wanted to talk about with the lease? Is that fine? Okay. Do you have do people have questions for Tanya about the lease? Yes, okay. So I feel like that's probably the place to go now is questions.
And I'm not sure if Tanya for you, but
Yeah, that's fine.
but the lease,
Yeah, it's on.
okay. The lease mentioned that we would have permanent signage.
Yes.
And I did talk to Virginia Hills yesterday about that, about their sign, because their sign, you can barely even see what it says on it, so they're going to be reformatting that. But where are we thinking, are we going to have a permanent sign? Is that the first thing?
Yes.
And the second, where are we thinking location? Because I know it was stipulated, it was in the lease.
So permanent signage, when we say permanent, I mean, just so you know what permanent means, it's on our building. So we're not saying like signage that doesn't be removed, like that can't be removed. We're saying signage that is always out there. That's permanent signage. So always out there signage. There are right by the road 2 lamp posts that already have brackets on them for banners, one on either side as you enter. They are maybe 2 feet further from the road than Virginia Hills sign is. So it's very visible. And 1 lamppost is ours and 1 lamppost is La Hermosa's. So we can put a nice banner that is on the lamppost. We're looking at I'm probably going to end up making La Hermosa's too, so that they are, I'll design ours and I'll offer to design theirs, and so that it is cohesive. And it will be like 2.5 feet by like 6.5 feet. And so we don't want to put tons of info on it. We want to put the core info on it, right? And then direct them to go find more info. But we will have our own branding out there right by the road. Virginia Hills sign, they are having it remade. They felt Brightview, Brightview was trying to get them to put up a sign, and they didn't know what they wanted. And then he said beige, and everybody keeps talking about how you just can't read it. You can't read it. So they're getting a new one. Yeah.
This is just technical, but it said custodial services were included, and so what does that mean? Like, what's encompassed? Like trash, water, electric, somebody who's cleaning, how much cleaning do we need to do? Just having been part of small churches with buildings before, sometimes we have to do work days and cleaning days throughout the year.
They hired a part-time, and so this answers a little bit to your question too, is because you were asking, like, there's a certain amount of expenses they have to take on other staff and stuff that will cover the building. They hired a part-time trustees person, so that's another salary they don't currently have. But that trustees person will be in charge of maintenance and custodial work. He'll be the one cleaning the coffee line out when we don't have to do it, that kind of stuff. We met him yesterday. I got to meet him. He was, or not yesterday, Friday. I got to meet him. He was helping with chairs for a little while. He's kind of an just use him for however many hours you need him, right? So this is his hours. You use him how you need him that week. He might be putting together furniture, or he might be, they've already hired him, so that's the kind of stuff he's doing now. I think, as far as I know, he's doing that work. We haven't gotten into if there's any parts that are ours, so long as it's, like, we need to make sure we are cleaning up. If we have bulletins, I'm looking over across the space before 11 a.m. I'm not leaving bulletins and trash, and so we can't leave that kind of stuff in the sanctuary when we leave. We all need to make sure that's cleaned up. But the stuff that's happening, the normal stuff, bathrooms and trash cans and vacuuming, and we're not in charge of that. Yeah, he's doing
And utilities are included. Utilities, access system, all
Yeah.
of that stuff is included.
And we just, like, they found out the thing that's happening this week. It's always new things that they're working out with Brightview and figuring out, but access to trash cans, the trash cans on property and the recycling. Brightview said they had to get their own, and then they went back and looked at the zoning paperwork from almost 10 years ago. And no, this has been zoned for only one area for trash and recycling. So that means they now are having to advocate, no, you need to give us keys to that trash compactor and all that. So there's still things, they forget things from the original zoning, even from a long time ago, that somehow didn't make it into their contract with Brightview and all of that. So they're still figuring those things out. But it's all included. We don't have to pay for that, and it's already on property. Yep.
Thank you. I know we're not members. We are church nomads.
You were going to become members
Yeah.
at one point.
So,
and then
so
you never.
we're military. We transfer all the time, 1 to 3 years. So we don't.
Would you
know
like
if
to
we're
join
gonna-
our church today?
Yeah, I'm sure she would. But we travel all the time. We've done churches everywhere around the U.S. And I grew up in a church, and I grew up in things. I do want to just comment a few things that I think is great. Please take whatever I'm saying, not negatively, just base value. First off, when I read I'm kind of a contract person. So is a 5-year period performance, is that 5-year base and then options after? Is that a 1 year with each option? Because I did see that it stepped up in percentage. Is it a 1 year
It's
main?
5-year with a termination option,
5
so
year
we
with
have the
termination.
90-day
Okay.
termination.
Is it fixed firm or cost plus? Because when you get into that, if I'm just interested if one of the other churches pull out and the landlord, is there a cost adjustment with the assessment? If say we're 2 years into this and you saw that base value about $3,000 a month, if one of the other churches pulled out, does that cost adjustment change, or is that base 5 years? And then once it gets to the 5 years, does the option step up after that if there's only 2 churches in there?
That could possibly change. So at the end of the lease term, we don't have a renewal option in that.
Okay.
So that could
Just
change.
things
That'll
to
be
think
another
about as you move
negotiation.
forward and go through. I think it's great. Hopefully when you get in and when we start this, there's a unified leadership. You mentioned the leadership meeting. Hopefully there's a unified leadership panel where you have equal voting power on contact resolution and things that move forward. We literally had a church that I grew up in. The whole church split over a pink toilet in the women's bathroom. The entire church split, went down the road. It all had. So I hope that you have unified leadership, voting, those things. I think it's a great effort. I think I understand the team does a great job. It's exhausting, tearing down, setting up each week. It's going, but it is going to be a different.
There's a lot of
it's
other
going to be a
things
different
that comes with it.
lifestyle.
Yeah,
It's going to be a
you're
different
right.
thing. My older brother did churches for 20 years. They told him, and your words spoke to me, because when you were talking about you're in this planning stage, he was a youth minister. They told him he could not do his career as a youth minister. He did not want to be a main pastor. He wanted to be a youth minister. And he did 20 years of doing youth programs, going to different things, going to New Orleans, doing a church. And he saw these ebbs and flows, and he did it. And now he's retired and doing some other work, but he's still doing youth programs as an old guy with a really long beard. That's what he wants. So I think it's great. I think as we move through these next phases of going into these things, just look at assessments, have these things, but just kind of, as we go in, it's kind of like a marriage. Right now, we've been independent, living in our own apartment, we've been doing our own thing, but that first year, is we're all in the same space, we're all learning and trying to grow with each other and the other churches of, you left the refrigerator open, you didn't do these things.
Yes.
So it's just things to think about going forward. I think it's a great step. I think it'll go forward. Just be cautious and just kind of take it as it goes. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I will say, I was telling Tanya, one of the things I love about Janine is she is about as blunt as they come. And she'll just tell you everything right then. And Bart is very sweet and pastoral. But these 2 years have provided us are all, we've had moments of tension in the last 2 years. We've had moments where they have asked for more than we were willing to budge on. There have been moments where they thought I was maybe over inserting myself. So, and I try, even when I'm trying not to, right? So like but it's been so gracious to watch conflict happen and to get through it. I mean, that's so much better than not ever having it. I love to watch it just, okay, we said our piece, and this did not change anything. We're all heading to the same direction. So I hope that's a good sign of how that will work in the future, though we will have another church involved, obviously, as well, which I should speak to the covenant. Yeah. That's an important thing. Can you go to the slide about church covenant? I don't know which one that is. Yes, 3 churches, 1 covenant. All right, so Virginia Hills, Kingstowne Communion, La Hermosa. Here are our covenant principles. We have a BART drafted because I asked for us to be able to have something in writing that every congregation agrees to, but also the pastors agree to, because this is an experiment across denominations and also ideological views of the world and political perspectives and all of that, all sharing a building together. And so 2 things, I wanted us to all have a shared understanding of what that meant, but also, if you noticed in the lease, I want us to all know fully who each other are. We don't want to be duped where Virginia Hills knows who we are, knows everything we believe. We did all that work back in 2024 to actually make the decision to move forward in relationship with them. But does La Hermosa know who we are? Does La Hermosa know what they might find, advertising for in the church and that kind of thing? I don't want them to be duped down the road or mean, and I don't know anything about them. They could be lovely and wonderful and never have an issue with them, but I just want us to all be on the same page, not to try to change one another, not to try to we are 2 renting bodies in the same church. They are them, we are us, but there will be things happening here. It's possible that I want to make sure that they understand as a part of who we are and what our values are. So, congregational independence. Each church maintains its own governance, leadership, doctrine, and ministry practice. Though we will have a covenantal board that will handle some things together. Unity in Christ, occasional joint worship maybe, if it makes sense. Praying for one another, celebrating God's work in each congregation, that we're always doing that. If there's anything that has caused us not to do that at some point, we got to get to the bottom of it. Stewardship, that we're all treating the facility with care and leaving spaces clean and ready for the next group and all of that, and we will, as time goes on, we will make that more specific. Respect for our differences, honoring different denominational traditions, theological perspectives, and cultural expressions. And that's when we put that in, and it was broad, and that's when I said, I really feel like every one of us needs a 1-pager so that nobody is caught off guard later about what that means for any church. Not to put all of our political difference, that's not what we're trying to do. We just want to make sure that it's clear so that there's no questions down the road. And communication, quarterly meetings, designed or designated representatives will be on it, open and honest dialogue, as you were mentioning. And then flexibility and cooperation, practicing patience and grace in scheduling and conflict resolution. In my mind, this beautiful thing that we are creating, and last thing we want is for something that happens between one random person in our congregation and one random person in their congregation to be a thing that derails this because it escalates. We don't want any of that. Hopefully that would never happen. I hope not. But should disagreements arise, we commit to addressing them in a Christ-centered manner, speaking directly and respectfully, seeking understanding before judgment, pursuing reconciliation in accordance with biblical principles. And so if we can all agree on that, but bottom line is we can preach and advocate and celebrate all the things that we believe as a church without tearing down the beliefs of another church. Does that make sense? Right? I think that's what we want to be. I can preach inclusion in every way, shape, or form. The way I talk about the gospel should be very apparent in how we preach it and how we live it. I don't have to tear down another church in order to do that, right? Same goes for them, whoever they are, wherever they are, if there are differences. So if those of you who haven't been along for this Methodist church where we stand right now, there were provisions in the last year or two where we now can. One of the big questions was could I preside over a gay wedding in that building? And Virginia Hills has said 100% no problem, right? So I just want to make sure that if I did that, other conflict wouldn't arise from some place that people just didn't know, right? I don't want people to not know that could happen, right? Or not know that. Why have conflict that we could have just easily put on the table because we did 2 years ago? We already put it on the table. Does that make sense?
Just really quick, can you remind us what are the 3 religions represented?
It's 2 Baptist churches and a Methodist church.
Okay, and then
So, but Virginia Hills is cooperative Baptist Fellowship, which is more progressive. La Hermosa is still, Southern Baptist, which is what Virginia Hills was before they moved over to Cooperative Baptist. They're Southern Baptist. That does, in my mind, I can't make any assumptions of them because of that. That could just be that but I also do know what the Southern Baptist, like, if I take them apart, I don't know them apart from the Southern Baptist Convention. I know they're Southern Baptists, right? And if I were to analyze Southern Baptist, I need to know that there will be respect for me when I'm in the room, right? Things like that. But I care less about me than I do about you all, right? So I want to make sure we all understand that, sharing a space together, right? I'm sure these are I don't know nothing about them, but they're also culturally conservative, right? It is, it's not just denominationally conservative. So I think we just have to adjust to one another. Right? I think I heard at one point they're not big fans of Halloween. So great, that's fine. You don't have to be. I think you should celebrate whatever you want. We're also going to have a trailer treat, right?
Yeah.
So as long as we can be in the space.
Yeah. And how did La Hermosa connect with Virginia Hills?
They rented from Virginia Hills years ago.
Okay.
So in the old building, and their price was $2,500. They rented for years there in the afternoon, 1:30 I think then, and they meet off of Franconia Road now, I think. I don't know how big their congregation is really. Every time they come to a meeting with us, though, they are always present, and they always bring about twice as many people as we do. Yes.
Has there been discussion, I don't remember seeing this in the lease, but was there discussion about how much flexibility and autonomy are we going to have if we want to sponsor an event? Like, this is kind of crazy, but let's say we decide we want to do a cold weather shelter.
Yeah.
Or, a divorce support group or things like that. Who makes the decision? Is that Virginia Hills to say, yes, it's okay to have that activity? Or is it totally up to you?
Good question. So, and that's when I get that kind of, gosh, wouldn't we love to do that? And there's no one who is more justice seeking than Janine Purdy. You should follow her on Facebook. And that's her work that she does for the county. She does homeless work for the county and senior services work. So I think that would be great. I don't know. You're asking a specific thing. You're just asking in general how we approve things. I do not think, no, they will not have all autonomy. We would bring it to them, and this shared kind of covenantal group would handle it. But in the end, it's their building, right? For the specific thing you said, I think what would become a significant question is the preschool. Because you have parents of kids and all kinds of people, there might not be enough room in the building for all that to be happening all at once, unless it was in the cold weather. There's school every single day there, right? So that's why I think preschool does have a little bit of pull in building use Monday through Friday, right?
I think the discussion so far have been about making people aware of what we might want to do, as opposed to anyone saying whether we should do it.
Yeah, we can ask.
The bright view overlay, for example, if you're going to be out. I think that so far people are not saying that there would be a veto power or some sort of, landlord has to say yes. It's
No.
more about us communicating as early as we can what our
Yeah.
intent would be. And then if something comes up, we have a forum to discuss
my good gauge of them on that would be like yesterday, our conversation about your paintings. So if you didn't know, Dave is a wonderful painter, and Dave has been, Dave here, if you don't know Dave, Dave's right here. But he's a wonderful painter and is going to be commissioned, like do some work for the building. And he's in conversation with them, but just to say, I think Gina was like, hey, Dave should do artwork. I was like, Dave should do artwork. I then said to them, I have a person who does artwork. Then now that became, sure, do artwork and sending pictures through text. So they kind of are just real, they're casual, normal people, these Virginia Hills people. They want to be open to whatever you want, yeah.
So I wanted to say thank you, Michelle, for leading this congregation in the negotiations with Virginia Hills and La Hermosa. And thank you, Tanya, for all the work and lending your expertise for the lease.
Yeah.
I wanted to piggyback off of the gentleman's question regarding the long term of the lease, because on here we are focusing on the three churches, the one covenant, but there is also this additional big entity, which, my understanding, is operated as a separate business line item for Virginia Hills, and that is the learning,
Yeah.
the childhood learning, and the only time I've heard of this fourth entity in the cost shares regarding the coffee, but understandably so. Even though the three churches will have access to the building all week, they will be utilizing the lion's share when it comes to utilities. And I'm glad that we have a flat fee of the $2,500. But with that said, with their operation, and are they contributing to that as well for the cost share?
Yes, I don't know. I don't honestly know the exact breakdown of that and what that means. I do know that in every way they are. I don't have enough visibility into their finances to know that, and I'm leery to ask too much about that. I know more about Virginia Hills Church than about that piece of it. I do know that the preschool has not been making any money in the entire time that they've been outside of that building.
Sure.
They've been carrying a deficit in both the church and the preschool. I imagine they don't want to be, right? And it should be a way to, hopefully as the church grows, to help fund some of that and to help Virginia Hills get out of some of their deficit too. But I don't know anything about how that will work. And they're right now a lot of, they are going to be in the next few years spending way more than they're going to make on that preschool until they have the right staffing, the right permitting, the right, there's lots of things, not permitting, accreditation, in order to get it to a place where it might actually be lucrative.
Okay. No, and that's fair. It's just I thinking long term. So we've locked in. Thank you, Tanya. For the 5 years. Understandably so, they've been running in the red because they haven't had their building and been able to do that. But in reality, come 5-10 years later, that is the only one of the four that is generating revenue, and hopefully they will be able to improve their enrollment and be able to contribute more. So I was just wondering long term after the 5 years, because I know you said that the 3% rent increase is standard, but the jump from the $2,500 to the $3K, what would the long-term longevity look like, considering there is this fourth party that is in the building that is the only revenue generated entity outside of the three churches? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. I think that's a really great question as we go down the road. What does that mean? I think also, just so they are a preschool that is, they're a church preschool. That's a particular designation by the IRS, a church preschool. They do not exist if not a part of a church. So they aren't it's not like early childhood learning center that, what is it, where does your kid go? Nova. It's not like Nova is now renting space there. It's not like that at all. It is It's always been a part of Virginia Hills from the very beginning, and it is tethered to. So if anything, it exists because Virginia Hills exists, and they're going to put everything into making sure that that is viable, and that's what they're going to try over the next few years. But maybe I can ask more once we become partners and create some good relationship in the building. Okay, well, I think it's probably time to vote, unless there are any other questions. All right.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the lease as it is currently written.
That was Chris. I think I heard Chris first.
Okay, all in favor?
I'm just counting it. I'm not trying to be nosy. We have to do that. Any abstained?
Any opposed? Excellent.
Awesome.
Motion passes.
If you got the names, then that's the number of people who said yes. Very good. Easy. Easy, easy, easy. Yay.